So last episode, we talked a little bit about going to conferences and professional development opportunities that are out there, some specific, and we even talked a little bit about when you have professional development opportunities within your district, or like our YouTube channel and online and asynchronous and all that kind of stuff. But I think it'd be a good idea to talk a little bit about what you should get from those experiences, whether it's professional development at your school, whether you're watching a webinar or your favorite YouTube channel gathering tips and tricks, or you're exploring, OELMA or the ITIP conference, or OETC is past, but you're going to a conference, your favorite conference, and attending your sessions and learning new things. And so I think that'd be a good thing to talk about. And you guys have any points or tips that you guys want to talk about to help everybody with that?
Tanya, I think this is such a good thing. And it goes, if you didn't see our vlog from last week, take a look at that, where we talk about some great professional learning opportunities and some great conferences coming. But yes, absolutely. You don't want to get overwhelmed, but I'm going to throw out there as my number one tip, or at least a really big tip. And I think it was you that mentioned this a while back, Tanya. And that is, talk to the presenters. After this session, if they said something meaningful, if they said something that's interesting to you, go up and talk with them. Even if they're a major name brand, national or international presenter, most of the time, they'll be willing to spend a few minutes with you. And so, talk to them, get their business card, or, maybe they'll offer you their business card. And I mean, you've made an incredible contact that you can, you don't want to go to them with trivial sort of things you can figure out by Googling in 2 minutes. But if you have a major issue, an instructional design issue, or an implementation plan, hey, the ability to run it past some of these, really top level experts is precious. And I know that's one of the things that I enjoy the most at conferences. And the same with vendors. If there's a vendor area, make a contact with that vendor rep who's, really knows the product, really knows what the company has available to you in terms of support. And those can be some fantastic contacts as well. I know I personally, I spend more time in the vendor area than I do in sessions, because I mean, the tools we use, whether it's hardware, whether it's a laptop, whether it's a video camera, and the software we use, whether it's a new online game or a teaching resource or a learning management system like Google Classroom or Schoology, what a wonderful opportunity to talk to the people that really know these tools, and in some cases even are developing them. I know at one conference I was at, I was sitting there, and this woman next to me, she seemed to be really familiar with Google Classroom. And we had a quick break, and I said, wow, I love Google Classroom. It's a tool I use all the time. You seem to really know your stuff. And she said, well, thank you. I should. I work for Google, and I'm on the classroom development team. It was like, wow,
Yeah.
So
really
these kind of things can happen.
Yeah, that's a really good connection. I'm glad you brought up the vendor area, because you kind of peruse around conferences the way you need to, or the way you feel. Like you'll go into one conference or in one session, and then you go into another session, and you might meet some teachers in those sessions. But walking around the vendor area seems to be the wonderful surprise of meeting people and making connections. And I think I mean, you don't go on a scavenger hunt and trying to find one person that'll help you, support you in something. I mean, it doesn't have to be that, let it happen naturally, but I think you should go out and be social in these conferences and try to find some new connections. I can remember when I first started at NWOET down at, I think it was called SchoolNet then. I went down to the conference and made a connection with a wonderful video editor in Franklin County. And I'll never forget that experience, that I thought I was really good at editing video, and so was he. But we were able to exchange tips back and forth. And, if I had trouble with something, I'd email him, I'd have that connection. So if I ran into trouble, I didn't have to struggle with it. I had someone who might have a solution for me. And so you always want to find someone who can support you in what you're doing, or help you celebrate what you are good at, whatever technology tool that you like. So I think the connections are super important.
An idea for making connections, in my experience, is to follow a blog of somebody that you might see at a conference. They mentioned a blog, go on and subscribe to the blog. And also those kind of people also answer your emails. I mean, they're welcoming emails for questions. They want to share their expertise, and also listservs. I mean, you can put that out to hundreds of people if you get a listserv. I know the ones that I find helpful right here in Northwest Ohio is our Northwest TILO, whatever you call it, but you're reaching hundreds of people and getting their expertise, and you can develop some relationships with people like that are the experts and can help you with any issues you might have.
Yeah, Judy, I'm going to piggyback on that, because when I do go to sessions, and as I just said, I spend a lot of my time in the vendor areas when those are available. But when I do go to sessions, the sessions where they are being presented by a group or professional organization that either I belong to or that I might be interested in belonging to, and finding out about their resources, some of which, you're going to have to pay a membership fee, but a lot of times those organizations have free resources as well. And so I mean, it's a really good way to continue your learning and to continue your access to tools that are going to help you afterwards. Yeah, absolutely. The TILO group and others like them, are just a fantastic way to get a lot of value that's going to go beyond the 2 or 3 days that you spend at the conference.
Yeah. And then those conferences can sometimes be overwhelming if you're spending that many days there and going to several sessions. And I know my first day, I have every slot filled. I, start at the very first session, and by 2 o'clock, I'm wore out, but I'm still pushing through till the 3 and the 4 o'clock session. And, but yeah, there's a lot of information that you're getting there, almost information overload. And it can be overwhelming in this way that you think you have to accomplish all those things, and you don't. I always advise people when they come to my session that I don't just give one tip or one trick, or I don't give one tool. Just take the tool that you thought was the best, take your notes, always take notes, put them in like an email or a Google Doc or whatever. You can, even if you have teachers that are with you from your district, you can share on those notes and collaborate and share. Also, that'd be a good idea. Go back to your district. Everybody goes to different sessions and then talk about the tools you liked best, and maybe implementing that one tool, or picking your top 3 tools that's going to be your next focus as a team at your district. But don't think that you have to accomplish everything that was exciting that everybody introduced to you. Just, put them on a timeline and get to them when you can. Just do one thing at a time. Try one new thing, and after you have done that pretty successfully with your students, or if you used it for productivity in your classroom, then implement the next tool. And then if you like that tool, but you want to get deeper into it, you have that connection, or the person that taught it, following them on Twitter, following them on their blog that they have, their website. But just doing little bits and pieces of what you can, improving, tidbit by tidbit of using that technology in your classroom.
So Tanya, and on that, they're not getting overwhelmed and focus on 1 or 2 things. One of the things you get at conferences very often are free trial memberships, but those trial memberships almost always have a limited time. And I know I am guilty of what I'm about to say. So I'll go in and I'll sign up for 3 or 4 or 5 free trial memberships, and they all end up, being like, 15-day, 30-day, 3-month, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, I'm at the end of the trial membership time and I've never played with it. So get the link, get the information on how to get your free trial membership. But, set that aside until you're going to have time to actually take advantage of that free trial. Don't sign up for 5 or 6 of them all at once like I do, and then your trial membership is gone and you don't get to play around with the tools. Pick 1 or 2 of those free trial memberships, make notes, send yourself an email, I think is a great thing. If you use calendar reminders, if you're familiar with doing that, put the free trial membership on the calendar reminder a month from now, when you've kind of recovered from the fire hose of information that has been coming at you for the last 2 or 3 days. And then, take advantage of that free trial at that time. And again, I'm going to go back to booths. A lot of times the booths will give you a handout, a paper card or QR code for the free trial membership. Put that in a clip, tuck that away, put it up on your bulletin board behind your desk, and have that available to you. In the future, in most cases, you don't have to sign up for those right at that minute. I mean, they might say offer expires in 10 days or something. Almost never. They'll virtually always give you that free trial membership, even many months down the road. So another way to extend the learning and the time and effort and money that you put into attending this conference to get the most bang for what you have put into it.
Yeah, pacing yourself is always good, even if you're just in your classroom with regular curriculum expectations. You want to pace yourself and not overwhelm your students or overwhelm yourself, and be kind to yourself and move forward at the pace that you can. And a lot of the teachers that I'm helping in districts now, I said, it's not like you're walking up and knocking the Chromebook out of their hand or the iPad out of their hand. You're not discouraging them from using technology. You're trying to get them to use technology. You're moving forward in this way that you are trying to improve. You're not going backwards. You're not being negative about instruction. You're trying. You're really working hard. And so I tell them to be kind to themselves, that they're doing enough. You are doing enough. If you're doing something, you're doing enough. And you need to keep doing that, because if you keep moving forward, even if you feel like there's something negative in your classroom, like it didn't work out the way you wanted to, you're still moving forward. Don't say, I tried something and I moved backwards. You tried something and you move forward because you put it out there. You put yourself out there. You put the experience out there for your students, and you are being successful in this way that you can't see now. The one thing that was eye-opening in all my research for my doctorate was that the majority of the people that I interviewed said it was all about engagement and their experiences with their teachers. And one of the things that surprised me was that they didn't understand how much they respected their teacher until 10, 15 years after they graduated, which is awful for us. We're with these kids every day and we go home and we're like, ugh, and we can't find out that we had an impact on them. I found out the other day on Facebook that I was the reason one of my students became a teacher. I never knew that. And he said all these nice things about me on Facebook. And I was like, oh my gosh, and it took, I think that's at least 20 years ago. That's 20 years ago I had that kid in class. So that's hard. That's hard to go every day and not get that validation and not get that acceptance until you're 50 years old. You hear from that kid and you're just like, oh my gosh, brings you to tears. You're like, I did make a difference. You got to understand that as long as you're moving forward, you're being successful.
Tanya, you couldn't have said that any better. I mean, I love Facebook. I mean, people think I'm an addict, but I mean, I might have been like 70 years old and there's a picture of a home ec room and on Facebook and it's shared by somebody, but then the kids come on and say, you were my favorite teacher. I loved home ec. And that does bring you to tears. I have tears in my eyes right now.
So moving to next week's topic, perhaps we can talk a little bit more about, how to know if you're making an impact, how to accept the fact that you won't always know right away on what's going on in your life. And it's, I think, to circle back to the conference theme, you won't really know how valuable that conference was to you until a week or 3 or maybe a month or maybe a year down the road, when you say, hey, here's that connection I made, and that's really going to help my instruction. It's going to help my kids. Or here's the new tool I learned, and I see that that's making a difference in what's going on in my classroom. And so, what happens today, it may be a while before we see the benefits of it, but it will be there. And, go in there with a plan, go in there with a strategy of how can I take advantage. My top three, for conferences: connect with the presenters, connect with the vendors, connect with the organizations, the professional organizations that are doing sessions and have booths at the conference, and see how that can take you further. And I don't know, Tanya, Judy, what do you think that we talk a little bit more, maybe next time around, about how the connections that you make with students and in your schools, how can you really make sure that they're doing the best they can to help our kids be successful, not just today, but in the future.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's a good, stepping stone from the last two topics that we've done, because we know we're going to these conferences for many reasons. And we need to understand the effect of that when we get back, and what are the expectations of from our perspective, and what should you expect from your students, and what should you expect within your district. I think that's a great next step. So, well, that's all we have. That's the time right there. This might be the best we've done for time, straight up on 15 minutes here. As always, we'll try to have some resources for you on the website that you see on your screen right now. Our contact information is always at the end of the video. Feel free to reach out to Roger, Judy, or I at any time. At our email addresses, we're willing to help you and support you in any way we can with instructional technology. All right. Well, it's been great hanging out with you guys today. Take care. See you next time.